You're listening to 17 Carat K-Pop, the podcast that's a little bit of everything with a K-pop twist. From pop culture critiques to the history of K-pop to interviews with people in the K-pop industry and K-pop artists themselves, to concert and album reviews, to a deep dive into the discographies of different K-pop artists, to K-pop news updates, to stories about the music industry more broadly. This show tries to cover everything about K-pop and K-pop as it applies to the larger music and concert scenes. Visit 17caratkpop.weebly.com for more information about the show. That's 17caratkpop.weebly.com. Hello everybody and welcome back to 17 Carat K-Pop. Today, let's pick up right where we left off with the last episode with part 2, the most iconic / noteworthy K-pop band and fandom names, as well as some really fun and interesting J-pop and C-pop names. The next category of K-pop names I want to talk about, band names that I like, but fandom names that I don't care for. Starting with Nine Muses. Nine Muses was a K-pop girl group where each member was kind of like one of the nine muses in mythology. Their fandom name was just Mine. I have an issue with the fandom names that are just like a word that I use in conversation all of the time. I would rather be a more distinguished, easily recognizable name. That's just my preference. For Nine Muses, the other thing about this name that is interesting though, and I'm not sure how to feel about, is the fact that the actual nine muses there's only one that's really the muse of music. Like, they each have a thing. There's history, love poetry, epic poetry, sacred poetry. There's a lot of poetry muses. There's a tragedy muse, a comedy muse, dancing, but only one that's known for music. And so I don't think that's what they intended. I'm sure they just meant, like, we'll be, like, the beautiful, like, goddess-like creatures as Nine Muses are. But it does also come across as, if you're really into the story of the Nine Muses, as a little odd because only one of them is known for being good at music, so that's kind of weird for a band name and not a soloist. Fun thing about One Us's name is that I would argue it's actually better if you pronounce it Onius. It looks like it's spelled Onius at first glance because it's spelled like one word. Come on, people, let's think about the names of title tracks from One Us. To Be or Not to Be, Valkyrie, To Be or Not to Be Onius, or To Be or Not to Be One Us. It just fits so much better to have that Shakespeare era pronunciation. It's To Be or Not to Be Onius, the Valkyrie Onius, even Lit Onius, Onius lit up something, or the Twilight Onius. I mean, come on, these are romance novels waiting to happen, people. Of course, this has nothing to do with the recent releases like No Diggity. They really just decided that they were going the Shakespearean route for so long that they suddenly wanted to turn my theory on its head and go with the most 2021 song names possible, but I digress. Number 3, 100% is the name of the band, and then The Perfection, that's the name of the fandom. And perfection, again, it's a word that's too frequently used in other contexts for my liking. Same with Everglow and Forever, but I do love the name Everglow for a girl group, and I love that it does come with like a catchy slogan, Everglow Forever, let's go. I love when a group has a signature thing like that, a signature catchphrase, tagline, etc. Number 5, Sonamu, actually means pine tree, and it's supposed to symbolize how much life they want their music to be full of life, like a tree. And then the fans are literally called the Pine Cones Solbang-ul. Number 6, Momoland. They're named that pretty much because their company's Momoland Entertainment. The fandom name, it has a bit more of a story. Fans are the merry-go-rounds. And they said they chose this name because they want their fans to view going to Momoland like going to a theme park. Like, being a fan of them is just so fun. It is irresistible. It's an irresistibly good time, like riding the merry-go-round at a theme park. It's just something that everyone feels compelled to do. I mean, I guess I would actually be interested to have a longer debate about this someday with people, but aren't the merry-go-rounds the least interesting ride in a theme park? Like, if I had to skip one ride at the park, I probably would skip the merry-go-round. But that's just me, maybe? I don't know. But irresistible, I would disagree. I would argue that maybe, like, I don't know what ride is not irresistible, but definitely merry-go-rounds are to me. Number 7, Stacy, spelled S-T-A-Y-C, and then Swith. An S for Stacy added to the word with, so like you're always with them. This was chosen out of 1,000 different fan suggestions, so I would love to just read all of them. I'm not going to on the show, I'm just saying I would love to, because I'm curious why this one won compared to others. Stacy as a name I think is cute for a girl group. Swith I'm not so sure about, although the Korean pronunciation makes it sound a little more like sweet, which is not really an accident, so that's kind of cute. Number 8, Davichi. This word is derived from the Korean phrase shining over everything, or always shining, shining over all, etc. And the fandom are the Davichi chords, which I think is, I'm not sure, I kind of like that, kind of not sure how I feel, because again, it's a commonly used word. Number 9, Dal Shabet. Dal is Korean for moon, and Shabet kind of a reference to sherbet, based on, the name of the band is based on the story, this kid's book story of a grandma who turns the moon into sherbet. The issue with this name I have is not even about the actual odd context, but it's just about the author's disapproval. Because the author of the children's book their band name comes from actually has spoken out multiple times against the group using that name, claiming that they used it without her proper permission, and when they actually reached back out to get permission, by that point it was too late for them to reverse it. So they basically reached out before debut, but still saying, hey, the band name is this, too bad if you disagree, not really giving her much of an option, is how she sees it. She was especially upset because she intended for this to stay a wholesome children's book, and the group was not exactly G-rated with their concepts. Number 10, Black Swan and Lumina. Lumina is meant to combine luminous, the word, with the suffix a, which means the best. So, like, you are the best, most luminant, the brightest lights. That's a term for their fandom now. And Black Swan is just written as one word for the name of this girl group. Number 11, N- and Engine. E-N-G-E-N-E, like engine, but mixed with gene. And that applies to N-'s whole concept, because they took the hyphen and turned it into an incredibly deep symbol for joining things together and connecting people around the world. And so the concept of genetics, a way of connecting to other people and relating to them, is used in this analogy for their fandom to be called the N-Gene. And so I will be frankly disappointed if they never release official merch, like the little N-Gene that could or something like that. They need to release some cute, cartoonish merch that goes with a kid's book, because if we're talking about engines, I automatically think of trains and stuff, and I just think there's a big marketing opportunity here. Lastly on this list, for what I'm leaning towards liking, but not sure if I want to put it in the list of best names, Woo-Ah and the Wows. Being called a wow, again, it's a frequently used word, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. But the band name Woo-Ah, I just like. That onomatopoeia, it gets your attention, and it's funny, and there's something about that name that I like for a group. W-O-O exclamation point A-H exclamation point. Honorable mentions for best, worst, and overall most noteworthy K-pop band and fandom names. The G-I in G-Idol is meant to represent each girl, although the G is in parentheses, not the I, which I guess makes sense, like each individual girl, but mathematically it should probably be both or just the I, but I digress. And then the dul, D-L-E, is actually the Korean word would be D-E-U-L, dul, which makes the word plural. So basically G-Idol, the way it's spelled and everything, spells out multiple individual girls. And their fandom is called the Neverland. Spica is a girl group who named themselves after the brightest star of Virgo, but that word also means things like ear, like an ear of wheat or something. TGUS stands for The Guys Using Sound, which I guess every group could apply that to them. Then there's MAIN, M-A-I-N, an acronym for Music Aspire Impressive Narrative, which again is like every K-pop group. HUB, Hope You Bounce. Jevice, J-E-V-I-C-E, Jewelry of Voice. Halo, H-A-L-O, Hexagon of Absolute Light and Organization. Gugudan stood for multiplication table in Korean, and then their fans were viewed as just like dear friends of them. So my inner math nerd kind of supports this name, because although it seems a bit odd, it is just saying math is fun, connecting that with, friendship, I don't know, something about it. And their fans are the dear friends, so you have to be a friend of math whether you like it or not. Anyway. Pritz, P-R-I-T-Z, stood for Pretty Rangers in Terrible Zone. And that was a bit of an ominous name to pick because this group actually, they haven't been heard from since 2015. They disbanded very soon after they debuted in 2014 and didn't really ever officially disband or release a statement. They just sort of stopped promoting. Ajax is a group that named themselves after this character from Greek mythology we'll talk about further in a future episode, wink wink. And this character is known to have helped led the Greeks to succeed in the Trojan War, which sounds like a very cool name for a band. But also, Ajax is the name of a cleaning product. A few celeb comparisons that were meant to be overt. Kiss, Korean international superstar, was a group. They didn't last long. They actually only had one main hit, and maybe part of the reason was because when you search for Kiss's discography, you're not going to get the K-pop group Kiss. SG Wannabe is a group named after Simon and Garfunkel, the folk rock duo, but they actually took that inspiration not exactly as copy-paste as you might expect because they went a different route with ballads and more R&B songs. But anyway, SG Wannabe, they had some unique things going for them. They gained a lot of popularity in Japan, and they used to not really show their faces. So they would cast all of these famous actors to be in their music videos and act out the videos, but they wouldn't actually appear themselves in the videos ever. They originally didn't even go perform live anywhere because they wanted to keep that mystique they wanted to keep their identity so hidden that they wouldn't even perform live. They dropped that facade after a while, but I'll just say they were very noteworthy because they clearly indicated that they were wannabes of a different group, but they also tried to make themselves extra unique. Some really unique, interesting J-pop and C-pop group and artist names. Let's start with the names I'm not as fond of. Popu Lady means popular lady, and that is the name of their group. Mason Book Girl, Maison, refers to typically a house or a business or a building of some sort, so kind of a weird thing to label yourself as. Blockchain named their fandom The Cube in all caps. This group, identifying with the square, with cubes, with being boxed in, also released an album called Break the Mold, so there's that funny, ironic marketing, I guess. DAICE, D-A-I-C-E, A-I, which is meant to just represent love in Japanese. Faky, F-A-K-Y, they named their fans the Fakers, or sometimes called Fakey Mania, and I am not a fan of the word fake nor the word mania. Chic Chili, what it sounds like, it's supposed to represent a group who is chic and who is red hot like a chili pepper. And I don't know if it's supposed to, but it's quite the tongue twister. It makes you want to say chic chili instead of chic chili. You have to be very careful as you pronounce it. So I don't know if that was part of their goal or not to get your attention, but there it is. They were actually formerly called Oxygen Girls, and I would argue that what's better than both their new and their old band name is EDM Sky, is the name of their company. So I would have just taken the company name and promoted the band as EDM Skies or EDM Sky Girls or something like that. TNT, in this case, stands for Teens in Times, and they were formed on this reality show actually called Typhoon Project. So both that name of that show and the name of the group are both interesting choices, and the fandom name is called The Popcorn. So I guess while teens are going through times, to put it incredibly vaguely as they do, get your popcorn ready and watch the show, I guess. Now let's talk about some of the names I really like. OWV stands for Our Only Way to Victory. And that fandom, it's spelled QWV, but it's meant to be pronounced like QB or QV. JO1's fandom, JAM, JO1 and me is what the acronym spells out. In an extremely baller move, the solo artist REOL, she actually took her stage name from the band because what REOL in all caps was a band, and then the solo artist from that group, she just took the name REOL and when she became a solo artist. So that's why on Spotify you'll see two different profiles, one that shows a group and one that shows a soloist. They're both the same REOL, but the real her is also separate from the band REOL. It gets confusing, but that's kind of the fun of it, I think. From REOL in all caps to just a capital R with lowercase EOL as her new stage name as she rebranded herself. GEM, G.E.M, stands for Get Everyone Moving. She's a soloist, and her first name is Gloria, so that's also where the G comes from. And I like the irony here because Get Everyone Moving is what it stands for, but I think that her best work is some of the less high-tempo stuff, like Walk on Water and Fly Away, so it's just pretty funny to me. My favorite name for a group is this J-pop girl group's Wings of Artemis. That's a very cool name. Wings of Artemis, representing the Greek goddess Artemis of hunting, nature, a lot of things that seem contradictory, which is cool because if a group wants to showcase their duality, Artemis is a great character to emulate because she's known for being very motherly as well as being vengeful or ready to attack. So she's very fierce, but also, I don't want to say motherly is the opposite of fierce, but just in a stereotypical way, I guess you could say it is. Just the personality traits she has she's multifaceted as a person and doesn't fit a clear stereotype of a group or a person. And so Artemis is known for like killing animals and hunting really well, but also she's known for comforting and holding animals and other living beings. So it's an interesting contrast there. Niziu, Niziu, meant to be pronounced kind of like you need you. Their fandom name is With You, W-I-T-H letter U. They are from JYP Entertainment, actually, and so that's why you may hear some comparisons to Twice and ITZY because they have the same management, but this group focuses a lot more on Japanese promo. Noah, he is a male soloist and Noah is just part of his name, but he also turned it into his stage name and a fandom name because now the fandom is Noana, which means you and I in Korean. Scandal is the name of this female rock group who I'm really into. And I think just from a PR perspective, that is such a smart idea for a band name. Think about it. If they ever get into big trouble, you may not know what happened because if you search Scandal in Google, the first pages of searches will be about the show Scandal or just about any celebrity scandal because that's a widely used term. And so to look up scandals, that will take a while. And so just from a PR standpoint, it's a really smart thing to just right out the gates be a bit rebellious and just call yourself Scandal. Just one word on its own, you are the scandal. Scandals don't happen to you, you happen to them. Passcode is another girl group with a cool name, and their fandom name is the Hackers. See, this is the type of cool, sassy attitude implying fandom name that I wanted Secret Number to go with instead of the cutesy route, because Secret Number could have called their fans the Code Breakers or the Hackers, so at least Passcode did that. Now let's talk about one of my more polarizing picks for best. There's a part of their name I can't say because I'll get demonetized, so I'll say Sugar Honey Iced Tea. We all know what that's an acronym for. So this group calls themselves BISH, B-I-S-H, which stands for Brand New Idol Sugar Honey Iced Tea. And so with that word in mind, it's really funny. They call their fans then the Garbage Men. Just to top it all off perfectly is the fact that they come from a company called WACK, W-A-C-K. Just every level of this feels like a parody, and I love it so much. GOF, Girls on Fire, is what it stands for, and I'm very glad, not just because that's a cool name for a group, but also because with an abbreviation of GOF, they could have very easily called their fandom the Gophers, and I would have been so mad, so I'm so glad they did not take the easy route, and instead they went with Kasifa. SING stands for Super Impassioned Net Generation, and their fandom has two names really, the Starry Skies in some cases, and Gypsophilia in others. Gypsophilia refers to this genus, meaning that it's like a bunch of species are collected under one genus. A genus is a broader characterization of species. Anyway, Gypsophilia refers to the genus of a bunch of different flowering plants. Lastly, for this category, Garnidelia. This mixes the names of Maria and Toku, or at least mixes references to Maria and Toku, who are this duo. It mixes the French phrase for Maria's opera with the name of this asteroid named Cordelia. So the French word for Maria's opera mixed with Cordelia gets you Garnidelia. The asteroid Cordelia is referenced because it was discovered in 1978, which is the year that Toku was born. Let's end with a list of more J-pop and C-pop group and solo artist names that I don't really consider really good or really bad, but these are just the most noteworthy, the most worth your attention. Arashi translates to storm, and they named their fandom Arasik in Japan, and then internationally they're just known as Arashians. Jewel named their fandom the Jewel Grind, presumably in a reference to the way that you can crush coal to turn into a diamond or something like that. Merry Bad End named their fandom the Resistance. Orbit named their fandom Earth. One and Only named their fandom the Swag. Perfume named their fans the PTA. Baby Metal named their fandom the One. 9% named their fandom the Nines. CTO, Creative Top 1, named their fandoms the CEOs. TF Boys stands for the Fighting Boys, and they named their fandom the Clovers. WARPS stands for Wave Assemble Radical People Syndicate. Lastly, here are some that I just like or dislike, or just, again, overall, they're noteworthy names. Little Glee Monster, Black Sheep Syndrome, Trident, Silent Siren, Bump of Chicken, Nerd Magnet, Magic Hour, spelled like Magic R, O-U-R. And lastly, this one I absolutely love. This electronic rap duo has the best name ever, Charisma.com. I could go on and on, but that's the summary for today's show. Quick PSA, this is episode 125, and episode 126 is coming out within the next few days. So after that, I'll go back to releasing 3 to 4 episodes a week, but I'm holding off until that date for 127. But thank you for sticking with me, and before I go, please remember to do some things to honor and celebrate Black History Month before it's over. I recommend this cool virtual exhibition. If you go to 28daysofblackhistory.com, it should be there. That's number 2, number 8. Don't spell out 28 to find it. Thank you all for listening. Talk to you all soon.